Welcome back. And now for the news in detail. Pakistan military says it is ready to crush any threats to the country's sovereignty. In a press briefing in Rawalpindi, military spokesperson Major General Babar Iftikhar said India is trying to divert world's attention from its internal turmoil by escalating tensions at the line of control.
As Pakistan is observing Surprise Day to commemorate the country's effective response to Indian aggression on 27 February last year, the Pakistan Army reiterated its resolve to defend the country's territorial integrity.
We salute the bravery of all our soldiers that continue to fight bravely in front of the enemy. We are aware of all covert and overt operations of our enemies and are prepared for all scenarios. The game being played by India, Pakistan's civil and military leadership is very much aware of it.
The spokesperson also highlighted ceasefire violations by the Indian forces along the LOC. He said there have been 384 violations by India during the past year. The DGISPR also said the entire world is aware of what is going on in Kashmir.
In the past 207 days, the people of occupied Kashmir have been facing major violence and oppression. International media and human rights bodies have unmasked the violence in the occupied valley. While there are protests in India regarding this issue cannot be silenced any longer.
Commenting on the US-Taliban peace deal set to take place on February 29th, the DGISPR said Pakistan has done its best to facilitate the Afghan peace process.
Pakistan is celebrating the first anniversary of the Surprise Day, commemorating its Air Force's victory over India on February 27 last year. Responding to Indian Air Force's aggression, Pakistan downed 2 fighter jets and arrested Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman. This report has the details.
Air Chief Marshal Mujahid Anwar Khan addressed a special ceremony by Pakistan Air Force held in Islamabad. Anwar Khan said, last year on this day, Pakistan's Air Force showed its superiority and lethality over India. He said Pakistan is a peace-loving country but will not tolerate any misadventure against its sovereignty.
Prior to aggression last year, our national leadership had made it amply clear that no misadventure against Pakistan would ever go unresponded. Today, I reiterate that commitment and caution. To respond to the aggressor was our compulsion, but measured and calibrated response was entirely our choice. Make no mistake, PF, when responds to irresponsible act, we may not always exercise restraint.
Pakistan Air Force also held a special air show in coastal city of Karachi, showing its professional and technological capability. The PF fighter planes JF-17 Thunder and F-16 participated in the air show and performed flying maneuvers. Political and military leadership, in addition to a large number of people from all walks of life, attended the show.
It has been 1 year since Pakistan shot down 2 Indian military jets and captured a pilot in a dogfight over Azad Jammu and Kashmir. The aerial attacks across the line of control were the first since the 1971 Indo-Pak War. More in this report.
In February last year, 40 Indian troops were killed in an attack in occupied Kashmir's Pulwama district. The attack was carried out by a Kashmiri citizen, but India jumped the gun and blamed Pakistan for the incident. Pakistan's civilian and military leadership vehemently denied the Indian propaganda, terming the attack a false flag operation. Facing immense domestic pressure, India launched airstrikes in the town of Balakot in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Pakistan's Air Force retaliated to the violation immediately, forcing IAF fighter planes to drop their payloads early. New Delhi claimed it targeted a terrorist training camp, but evidence showed its bombs only damaged a few trees. In the ensuing air battle, the PAF jets shot down 2 fighter jets and captured one of their pilots. However, Pakistan returned Indian pilot Abhinandan Varthaman as a peace gesture. But India continued to threaten the regional peace by revoking Kashmir's special status and violating the ceasefire along the LOC repeatedly. The situation between the two countries is still tense as Kashmiris are forced to live under an inhumane Indian curfew. Islamabad has repeatedly called on the international community to help stop the conflict from turning into an all-out war.
The Pakistan Army has held a media briefing marking the anniversary of the Operation Swift Retort, which was Pakistan's befitting response to India's bombing of the town of Balakot on 27th of February last year. What in this report by Sumaira Khan?
The operation resulted in the downing of 2 Indian fighter jets and the capture of the Indian Air Force's Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman. Today, a monument has been built where Abhinandan's jet crashed and remains open to the public and international media. The Pakistan Army organized a tour of the site where they explained how they captured the pilot.
On 27 Feb 19, we observed intense aerial activity on the skies of our sector. Meanwhile, we just saw a jet coming down like a rock after an explosion, followed by a parachute which was descending downwards. So my commanding officer ordered me to move a QRF immediately and secure the site.
In an effort to maintain regional peace, Abhinandan was returned to India as a gesture of goodwill. But before that, the Pakistan Army nursed his injuries and gave him a taste of some Pakistani tea.
The QRF team brought the injured pilot to battalion headquarters where I was the medical officer. He was in a state of shock due to the fear, and his heart rate was fast, and he had lacerations on his face, cheeks, and on his head, and he was bleeding from the nose and from the face.
Unfortunately, tensions between Pakistan and India have remained high since the incident, with frequent ceasefire violations from India. The situation has deteriorated since 5th August 2019, when India illegally annexed occupied Kashmir. 1 year after India's unprovoked aggression against Pakistan, which was turned down by Pakistan's armed forces with full force, Pakistan still reiterates its firm resolve to give peace another chance and said that its hope and efforts to give peace another chance should not be taken as act of cowardness. Reporting for Indus News, Sumaira Khan, Hura Village, Line of Control.
The Pakistan Air Force has unveiled all 4 missiles recovered from an Indian jet downed in February last year for violating the country's airspace. This report has the details.
The Pakistan Air Force displayed the wreckage of the Indian Air Force's MiG-21 Bison, which was shot down by a Pakistani fighter jet. In a media briefing, Pakistan Air Force showcased the MiG-21 equipped with 4 missiles. The missiles were never fired, contradicting the Indian claim of shooting down Pakistan's F-16 warplane. Indian Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman, who was flying the jet, ejected himself and was captured by Pakistan. The Indian pilot praised the Pakistan Army for saving him from the locals just after his landing in Azad Kashmir.
I would like to put this on record, and I will not change my statement if I go back to my country also. The officers of the Pakistani Army have looked after me very well. They are thorough gentlemen, starting from the captain who rescued me from the mob and from his soldiers, and thereafter the officers into the unit which I was taken to. Okay. This is what I would expect my army to behave as, and I am very impressed by the Pakistani Army.
Pakistan released the Indian Wing Commander as a gesture of peace. Pakistan's military wing released Abhinandan's another video statement before his release.
Pakistani Army जो है वो बहुत ही professional.
The Pakistan Army is a very special service. I see peace in it. I've spent time with the Pakistan Army. I'm impressed. Indian media exaggerates a lot. It always gives ear to small things, adding fire and spices to it.
मिर्च लगा के बोलते हैं वो, उसमें लोग बहकावे में आ जाते हैं.
The release of Indian Wing Commander Abhinandan as a peace gesture was highly appreciated worldwide.
Pakistan's President Dr. Arif Alvi says the riots in Indian capital New Delhi are a prelude to Muslim genocide in the country. Speaking at a seminar in Islamabad, Alvi said minorities have been under a constant threat in India since 1947. Alvi said the time has proven Pakistan's founder Muhammad Ali Jinnah's prophecy that Hindus never accepted Muslims as part of one nation. He said Muslims in today's India are being mocked and told to go to Pakistan. The president said Pakistan understands the danger of society's polarization that leads to terrorism. He said Pakistan treats its minorities with respect and goes the extra mile to ensure their rights. Alvi said as Pakistan is striving for peace in the region, while India is constantly rooting for war. The president said India started tradition and nuclear weapons race in the region, and Pakistan was sucked into it to establish a balance of power. The death toll in riots during citizenship law protests in India's capital New Delhi has risen to 34. The opponents and supporters of the law are facing off against each other, leading to violent clashes where 250 people have been wounded as Hindu radicals continue targeting mosques, Muslim homes and shops under the nose of the ruling BJP government. Expressing concern, US Commission on International Religious Freedom asked India to take serious efforts to protect the Muslims. In a press release, US CIRF said there are numerous reports of Delhi police not intervening to stop violence against Muslims. The US has issued a travel advisory for India, asking Americans to exercise caution. Calling for restraint, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he is very saddened by the reports of casualties in Delhi.
20 to 25 people started beating me. The rest were standing by as they were watching a show. There were thousands behind them. They kept hitting me. Nobody came forward to save me. Somehow, some people came from the other side. I was like unconscious. I didn't have much consciousness. My clothes were drenched in blood.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has met Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani on his day-long visit to the country. The trip comes days before the signing of the US-Taliban peace deal in Doha, scheduled for 29th of February. The Foreign Ministry says the focus of the visit is on strengthening bilateral cooperation and exchanging views on regional developments. It said Islamabad and Doha enjoy cordial ties based on mutual trust. Pakistan's Foreign Office says Chinese President Xi Jinping will visit Islamabad soon. In a press brief, the office's spokesperson Aisha Faruqi said the schedule of Xi Jinping's visit is being finalized. The spokesperson said Islamabad appreciates China's steps to control the spread of the coronavirus. She said the virus outbreak will not affect bilateral trade. She said federal and the provincial governments are taking effective steps to prevent the virus from spreading in Pakistan. Talking about Doha deal, she said agreement signing between Taliban and the US is a positive development. Faruqi said Islamabad hopes the deal will lead to lasting peace and prosperity in Afghanistan. In China, another 29 people have died in the new coronavirus outbreak in the last 24 hours as the toll tips over 2,700. Total cases of the virus have now exceeded 80,000 worldwide, with over 2,700 deaths. While the outbreak in mainland China appears to have waned, it is spreading at a fast pace in other countries. More in this report.
As the rising cases of the new coronavirus ring global alarm bells, governments are stepping up measures to contain the outbreak. Italy has put 55,000 people in quarantine in 11 towns after deaths surged to 12, while the confirmed cases jumped to 400. Nearly 1,600 are now infected in South Korea, while 13 have died. Seoul and Washington have postponed their joint military drills.
The containment efforts of COVID-19 and the safety of ROK and U.S. service members were prioritized in making this decision. The decision to postpone training was initially raised by General Park Henry, Chairman of the ROK Joint Chiefs of Staff. General Robert Abe Abrams, Combined Forces Command, a United States Forces Korea commander, agreed to postpone the training.
In the Middle East, Iran registered the highest toll with 19 fatalities and 139 cases.
Our assessment is that we will likely see similar situations in other countries in Europe, and that the picture may, in the coming weeks, vary from country to country.
As the cases in Europe surge, Algeria, Brazil, and Pakistan have also reported their first coronavirus cases.
Saudi Arabia has temporarily suspended visas for the Umrah pilgrimage and visits to the Prophet's Mosque in Medina. In a statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the suspensions are temporary but gave no clue when it will end. The ministry has also stopped entry for tourists arriving from states where the novel coronavirus poses a risk. The government said the precautionary measures have been applied to prevent coronavirus arriving and spreading in the kingdom. Saudi Arabia has no cases of virus, but 7 Saudis are among the coronavirus patients in Bahrain and Kuwait. Saudi Arabia hosts millions of Muslims visitors throughout the year, peaking with the Hajj pilgrimage. Turkey says 5 of its soldiers have been killed in an attack by the Syrian forces in northwestern Idlib province. The defense ministry says Turkish forces destroyed 114 Syrian government targets in response. The ministry said 3 Syrian tanks were also seized and an air defense missile system was destroyed in retaliation. Meanwhile, Turkish-backed Syrian rebels claim to have recaptured the strategic town of Sarakab. But the Syrian forces have denied the assertion, saying they successfully repelled the rebel attack. Earlier, the government forces said they have captured 15 villages and the tactical town of Kafarod from the rebels in Idlib. Meanwhile, talks between Russia and Turkey are underway in Ankara to reduce the rising tensions in northeastern Syria. More stories to follow, but right after a short break, stay tuned. Welcome back. Qatar produces the highest level of plastic waste per capita of all the Gulf states. The government has now set a target to recycle 15% of the solid waste by 2022. For this reason, a weekly market has been introduced encouraging visitors to shun plastic items. More in this report.
Qatar produces 2.5 million tons of solid waste every year. According to official statistics, only 8% is recycled. Qatari people also have the highest per capita CO2 emissions of any nation on earth. The country's economy is largely focused on fossil fuels. Single-use plastic is everywhere and little of it is ever recycled. In an effort to educate its people on the issue, the government has introduced a Torba market where plastic is banned.
So the motivation is basically seeing where we were, how far we've come since the inception of the market, and then how far we can go. I think there's always room to grow no matter what, and I think that's the motivation. Seeing any difference you make, whether small or big, I think really feeds into that notion.
Instead of selling plastic water bottles, the market has water stations where visitors can rehydrate themselves.
Over here we're setting up this mug library where you can borrow a mug and then return it and we'll wash it, and that way we reduce waste from like plastic and paper cups, and it's been working so far. Every week we get more people coming, and I think it's become like a normal part of the market, so it's really exciting.
People visiting the market also wear badges emblazoned with plastic police. Foreign tourists are very pleased with the initiative.
I was really impressed because in Qatar in particular, sustainability hasn't been high on the agenda for a very long time, and now they're working really hard to do something with it, so it is really impressive. It's good to see those positive moves.
Every year, the market's management enforces stricter environmental measures. Launched in 2016, it now hosts dozens of stalls and attracts as many as 5,000 visitors every weekend.
South Africa has cut its economic growth forecast for 2020 by half. In a televised budget speech, Finance Minister Taito M. Mboweni said the economy will grow by 0.9%. Mbuveni said inflation will average 4.5% in the current year. He said the state will be forced to cut $10.5 billion from civil servants' pay over the next 3 years to reduce public debt. The finance minister said reducing salary increases and the promotion of the civil servants will save the government $2.4 billion. He said over the next 18 months, South Africa's economy could receive any number of boosts from the government. The minister added the recently announced reduction in interest rates and impending change in electricity regulation will help the economy. Now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.